question, comment? Yes?
I mean, the books that I've read about agape oftentimes link it with nonviolence. This idea that more of a practical idea, sort of, that
yes.
you can't not love the enemy, because in not loving the enemy you might destroy them in a sense,
mm-hmm.
and perhaps destroy something that's not necessarily more evil than you somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That it's all sort of in the method, that we can't say that exactly, we can't always say that another human being is unredeemable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
that's
I don't know, so it's,
but I
don't take it so much as such a high thing, but almost a practical
method. Well, let's go back to Hegel.
Okay.
I mean, Hegel is the philosopher. I mean, we talk about subject-object, but that's really, the really important thing is about the unity of the practical and the theoretical. So there is no sharp distinction. And that, Taylor insists on that. Taylor insists on that. I'm not interested in involving in these esoteric, epistemological, theoretical discussions. I'm interested in the human practice. I'm interested in lived experience. And the ontology then, if we can call it that, flows out of that. You understand? And I think that's also what Illich is saying. That's also what the death of God theologists are saying. Yeah, I think. Thanks for that point. I think that's. I think we agree, no? Yeah. Yeah, I took your comment as
that. I don't know. I've always seen those two ideas quite entangled.
Well, if you don't mean narrowly, crassly pragmatic, then I agree with you. But if you mean by it practical, just narrowly, crassly pragmatic, then I don't agree with you. Okay. You understand?
Okay.
May I ask before I forget? You mentioned that Taylor sees this new atheist as rather superficial, rather arrogant, and so on, and doesn't take them that seriously, and he can function in their realm and doesn't disagree with many of them. Mm-hmm. Now you said that he is more serious about all atheists, and let's stay just with Nietzsche.
He takes them more seriously. He has more respect for them.
And then you said that because if they are right, then Christianity and the whole conception of religion is in big trouble. Mm-hmm. Now you said that it is this absurd existence of mm-hmm. human striving facing this infinite and empty universe. Now, okay, well, if that's the case, so truly, the Christianity mm-hmm. or any religion has very little space for us. Mm-hmm. But what would be then the response? You said that
mm-hmm.
that humans have to just deal with their own mm-hmm. numinous experiences and some kind of create their own realm of meaning. And then you started to talk about agape and so on. But before you go to agape, before you go to search for meaning, there is something in between that Taylor has to refute those real charges.
Well, okay, I was too quick on Nietzsche because maybe I shifted too quickly to Camus, and mm-hmm. perhaps the important thing is that there is this difference between Nietzsche and Camus. I mean, Nietzsche. And Taylor mentions this. For Nietzsche, there's absolutely no reason why we should help the weak. The weak should be let to disappear on their own. There's this very strong tendency in Nietzsche, which is opposed to benevolence, opposed to compassion. Now, it may be that his obsession with compassion has to do with his obsessive desire to differentiate himself from Schopenhauer, for whom compassion was a huge plus a huge factor. And Nietzsche, I gave a lecture here last time about Buddhism and Nietzsche. And Nietzsche is also very critical about Buddhism for that reason, because they play such an emphasis. So, but when Taylor says that if they were right, if in fact it would be a form of demeaning oneself, to give in to weakness, if in fact the heroic conception of what the ideal human being is, which is the Nietzschean conception, were right, and if we could really say that all this compassion and love is just a form of weakness, delusion, Schwärmerei, the Germans would say, then it would be bad news for us. And of course the Christian has to stand up against this in Nietzsche. And I want to say two things about Nietzsche. I mean, and the old atheists. The old atheists. I mean, they're steeped in religion. Nietzsche is steeped as a young person. His father is a minister. Spinoza is steeped in religion. It's interesting in Spinoza that even though he's been raised in a Judaic tradition, he believes that Christ is a superior figure than the Jewish prophets, because the Jewish prophets had the greatness of having a great imagination, of being able to interpret images and symbols, whereas Christ, Spinoza says, was in a mind-to-mind, soul-to-soul relationship with God. There was an immediate relation. And this goes back to Hegel also. For him, this love is not just agape, but this love is really the incarnation of God becoming man through Christ. That's the Christian sense of love. And for Hegel, I mean, Hegel, one could say, is much more upfront about his immanentism than Hegel is, than Taylor is. And that's why the death of God philosophy is a philosophy of immanence. And as Altheiser says, it is the transcendent God that dies on the cross. Transcendent, and here, if you permit me, Kant, again, I mean, Kant is everywhere. Kant makes a distinction between transcendence and the transcendent. In other words, what is